What is going on, guys? WrestleMania is in the books. It is the Raw After Mania. There have been a lot of very newsworthy Raw After Mania episodes over the years. This was a newsworthy one. It was not a great show, but what I liked about it was there was a lot going on. New faces popping up, people moving over from SmackDown to Raw, new feuds starting. So I like that aspect of it. It just felt like, okay, we got some new stuff going on that kind of freshens things up a little bit. Beyond that, though, not a great show, but I was mostly entertained by what we got tonight, which culminated with the new World Heavyweight Champion. We had Roman Reigns, who was nice enough to grace us with his presence in the closing moments of the show as his car pulled up to the building just in time before Monday Night Raw ended. They're very lucky he showed up when he did. He didn't get caught in a traffic jam, or we'd still be sitting here waiting for him to show up. But he came out, and he brought his cousins out with him. And this is what I was a little concerned about, which was we're going to be right back to the bloodline. It's going to be same old, and we're going to have the bloodline as they did on Fridays now, running things on Mondays. And that may well be the case. The one good thing is they put the World Heavyweight Championship back on Roman, and it does appear that Roman is going to be pretty much full-time through the summer, which might be a dead giveaway about how long he's going to have that World Heavyweight Championship. So we are going to have Roman on the show, if not every week, on most weeks. That was my biggest concern coming out of WrestleMania, or even going into WrestleMania. If you were going to put the World Championship on him, we need him on the show. And so hopefully that will be the case going forward. That'll be a good thing. But he came out at the end, and we had an unexpected appearance joining him and the Usos in the ring in the form of Jacob Fatu, somebody else who was successful at WrestleMania this weekend. He beat Drew McIntyre in their unsanctioned match. And he came down to the ring, and he confronted Roman. And honestly, this is a confrontation that I have been waiting a long time for. This is a match when Jacob first came into WWE that I was hoping we would get. We still haven't gotten it. So when I saw him come out, I said, okay, that piqued my interest. Let's see where this goes. So he came down to the ring. Yes. Yeah, apparently, there goes my my idea, though, my theory of Randy Orton being the one who attacked Jacob Fatu. I guess we're never really going to get a resolution. Although I guess you just have to assume Drew McIntyre did do it. He was lying the entire time. We never really got a resolution to that. And now it appears that we are not going to get a resolution to that. But he confronted Roman in the ring, and he said, I want all the things that you have. All the money, all the cars. I want to support my kids, the bigger house, everything, all of it. I want it. I want to be World Heavyweight Champion. And Roman gave him, and he said Backlash. And Roman gave him 1 week, because I don't know if you're ready for it. I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. I'll give you 7 days. We'll reconvene on Raw next Monday night, and we'll take it from there. And that's how they left things, with a tease that the main event of Backlash, which is only a couple of weeks away, I think, right? May 9th, I believe. So what is it, 2.5 weeks, something like that? That the main event of Backlash is going to be Roman Reigns against Jacob Fatu. It's not official, but they wouldn't dangle that carrot the way they did tonight if they weren't going to be doing that match. That is a match that appeals to me. That's a match that intrigues me, as is the finish of such a match. Because if they're going to put these two in the ring together, and Jacob, let's say, is going to be on Raw now, and he's already wrestling for the World Heavyweight Championship, I don't see them moving the World Heavyweight Championship onto Jacob Fatu. So what does that mean? I mean, are we looking at a one-and-done scenario? Are we looking at Jacob then falling in line? Because Roman wanted him to do one thing at the end of the night. He wanted him to acknowledge him. I keep telling you guys, Roman Reigns, for all the people that cheer for this man, Roman Reigns has not changed one damn bit from the conceited, selfish asshole that we saw in the original incarnation of the bloodline. And so even when he went to his cousins and Jay, didn't want to have anything to do with him, and he wanted to make amends, he never changed. He's still the same guy. You saw it even tonight when he had his cousins out there in the ring with him, and he says, look, it's basically like united we stand, divided we fall. When we're apart and we're separate, we're weak. And you've got all kinds of people talking shit about us, including washed up rappers. But when we're together, like we were all those years ago, we're unstoppable. manipulation. He's still manipulating his cousins. This man hasn't changed. And so we may well be looking at a case where he's going to try to recruit Jacob in. We got a new bloodline going on. I don't want to see that. Jacob Fatu should not be falling in line with anybody. If anything, Jacob Fatu should be the one bringing the Usos over with him when all is said and done and having his own little crew. But to be honest with you, I have bloodline fatigue at this point. We had the bloodline, we had the MFTs, which is like Timu bloodline. This would be what, the third incarnation of the group? It's like NWO, NWO Wolfpack, NWO. How many versions of the NWO did we even have? We had, what, three or four, five? NWO 2000? I don't know how many fucking versions. I don't need to see that with the bloodline, but I am intrigued about the Roman and Jacob story. So I like that. Now, the man who lost the World Heavyweight Championship, CM Punk, he made an appearance on the show tonight, and he was looking rather chipper for someone who lost the world title because it was almost like a weight had been lifted off of his shoulders. And he made it very clear he's not taking a vacation. You know, he's not going anywhere. And he said, you never know when a world championship opportunity might fall out of the sky. That brought out Cody Rhodes, who was not looking too good. His eye was not looking too good. And they heavily teased a Cody Rhodes CM Punk match. I didn't get the impression it was anything that was imminent. It may not even happen this year. I look at that as a potential WrestleMania main event in Saudi next year. So just because they were openly teasing it tonight does not necessarily mean it's going to be, let's say, a SummerSlam match. I would like for it to be, but to be honest, like that's a WrestleMania caliber match. If they wanted to give it to us this year, I certainly have no issue with that. But they were heavily leaning into it so much so that we are going to get it at some point. The only question, it's not if, the only question is when. We had also on this show the return of the Street Profits, who we have not seen on television in many, many months. And so they were back, right? We saw them on SmackDown. Last time we saw them, they are now going to be mixing it up with the Vision for the tag team titles on the Raw side. So it was good to get them back on TV. You got to try to breathe some life into this dead tag team division. So you got to start somewhere. So it was good to see them. They teased other matches here on this show, a rematch. I'm sure this will be the Backlash match with Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vaquer, Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. They went at it tonight. And then there's also Gunther and LA Knight. And, oh man, poor LA Knight. You know, Gunther was in the back and he was being interviewed late in the show. And LA Knight interrupted. And as soon as I saw LA Knight in the shot, I said, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing? There's no way on any planet that this ends well for LA Knight. Like, we haven't even seen the match yet. I mean, we have seen the match in the past, but like this particular match that they're clearly going to have very soon, we have not even seen the match yet. I already know how it's going to go. LA Knight, he's the only person who hasn't been clued in about how this is going to end. So LA Knight setting himself up for another loss. And yeah, we got to get that in. But yeah, it's not going to end well for him. So that seems to be a direction here. The bigger story, though, outside of the Roman and Jacob stuff, were the NXT call-ups and some of the new faces that we either saw on the show tonight or have already been teased for Raw next week. So on the show tonight, we had Ethan Page and Sol Ruca. This was their official Raw call-up. They are officially now on Monday nights, and they teased that next week, Joe Hendry, who Michael Cole flat out said he's on Monday Night Raw now. He's a member of the Raw roster. He's going to be in concert. So I guess we'll see who interrupts him. Maybe that'll give us a sense of who he's going to be working with. So that's going to be on Raw next week. And I like this. I mean, look, typically the Raw after Mania in the past, or SmackDown after Mania, has been the time where you do introduce some new faces or somebody makes a big return. And so there were no big returns tonight, but they made some moves, roster moves, which I think are needed. You want to freshen the roster up a little bit. I don't get the sense they're doing a draft. I don't want them to do a draft. We don't need no stinking draft. I've talked about this before. If you want to make roster moves, there are other ways to do it without a draft. The draft shows suck. They're boring. They suck. Don't do them anymore. I'm perfectly fine if they just want to say, you know what? We're just going to move the chess pieces around and they're just going to show up. We're going to debut some new people on the show. Fine. Always good to freshen things up. But if you're going to be making moves like this, you got some work to do where it comes to SmackDown. Because as things stand right now at this moment, SmackDown needs a lot of help. SmackDown already needed a lot of help, but now it needs more help. I have to assume, right? It's early yet. We haven't even gotten to Friday yet, that by the time we get to SmackDown on Friday, those moves will become clear. But you watch Raw tonight and you could kind of tell like what some of the moves are going to be. So for example, we already know Rhea Ripley is on her way to SmackDown. She looked crestfallen in the back tonight when she was parting ways with Io Sky. She's the new WWE Women's Champion, right? That title belongs on SmackDown. So she is now going to go to SmackDown and defend that title. CM Punk, who made no mention of SmackDown, but what he did do is he went face-to-face with Cody Rhodes tonight, and they were teasing that match for a reason. Now, even if that match is not going to happen imminently, he would have to be a member of the SmackDown roster, unless you waited until next year and he won the Royal Rumble. CM Punk, it feels to me, he's been on Raw ever since he came back to the company in 2023, right? Is it good to be alive on a Monday night? We've been hearing this every week now for 3 years. If anybody, I think, could really benefit the other show, it would be CM Punk. CM Punk is a big star. SmackDown could use some star power. CM Punk is there every single week. He's actively wrestling on the show on most weeks. SmackDown could use CM Punk. I don't know what else you do with him if he sticks around on Raw. Him and Roman, that's done. Him and The Vision? Are you fucking kidding me? What else is he going to do? It makes sense for him to move over to SmackDown, and especially if you're moving Jacob Fatu over from SmackDown to Raw. You know, it's almost like a clean swap there. So I think Punk moving to SmackDown is very likely. Rhea Ripley, we already know she's on SmackDown. By the way, if they do move Punk to SmackDown, I'm sure one person who will not be happy about that, Drew McIntyre. They would be reunited once again on the same brand. So Punk, very possible. Rhea Ripley, confirmed. We already know she's moving over. They just debuted Royce Keys on SmackDown. He just won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal last week. I mean, Raw has Oba Femi. They're really pushing him hard. SmackDown has Royce Keys. In addition to that, let's look to NXT. Because we had Ethan Page and Sol Ruca, right? And now Joe Hendry. Who could SmackDown get from NXT? Especially if they move Punk over. So I know they're like this. First name that comes to mind is Ricky Saints. So Ricky Saints going to SmackDown, to me, would make a lot of sense. How about Blake Monroe? I don't even know why, frankly, she's still down there in NXT. Blake Monroe would really help that SmackDown women's division. And she's a great character. She's got this, great personality, I think, that would fit perfectly over there on the main roster. And SmackDown would be a good fit for her. So Ricky Saints, Blake Monroe, JC Jane, who just lost the NXT Women's Championship. They may call up the entirety of Fatal Influence, all three women. Get Fallon Henley up there too. So there are moves to make where, when I'm on here on Friday night talking about SmackDown, I'm not talking about how weak SmackDown is. We're talking about, okay, they made some great moves here. These are the moves that I'm hoping that by the time we get to the end of the week that we're looking at. The other thing on the show tonight, they were talking about it in a way on Sunday where, we're not sure. But it looks like Brock Lesnar has retired. Tonight they were more they were declarative about it, where they said Brock Lesnar has retired. And they gave us a tribute video package showing highlights of his career from over the years. It was very well done. It was a Godsmack song that they used. I am still not 100% convinced that he is retired. I hope he is. I really do. He had, in many ways, the best send-off you could ask for. Putting over Oba Femi the way he did at WrestleMania, it really doesn't get any better than that. So to me, I hope that that's the end, and that's sort of the bow on the gift. But I'm just still not convinced. I still think there could be something there with this favor that Paul Heyman owes to Gunther, and there's a way to kind of coax him out of quote-unquote retirement. Yeah, I get a lot of people like, oh, he was crying last night, so of course it's real. Brock was crying. I'm not so sure that Brock was crying, actually. Paul Heyman was crying. You can see the tears streaming down his face. I'm looking at Brock Lesnar last night, and to me, and again, whether this was genuine or not, him retiring, like, it looked like he was trying to cry. I don't know that it wasn't like he was a blubbering mess the way some people say. Don't look too much into that. That doesn't mean anything. But yes, for the time being, at least, it does look like Brock Lesnar has wrestled his final match, but we all know how that goes. Anyway, this is your Raw on Netflix review, the Raw after Mania. Let's get into it. It is Monday night, April 20th. 420. 420. 2026. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for hanging out with me. We are continuing here. We've been doing shows, a lot of them. They don't stop. There is no off season in wrestling. You just sort of push the reset button and you start all over again. That's why we're here. Super chats are open. If you would like to send them on in, I will read all of your messages. You will see them popping up on your screen, and we'll hang out a little bit later and go through them all. I just want to say thank you to everybody who joined for all the WrestleMania coverage this weekend. Big success, as it usually is. We had nearly 10,000 live combined between the two nights. Well north of 120,000 views and counting between the two Raw reviews on Saturday and Sunday. So I thank you for that. And with that, let's spin the wheel, because we got to find out what the likes goal is to do our Be the Booker segment tonight. Do I have my RVD rolling papers? I do not. 700 likes is the goal for tonight. So you're going to have to work towards it. We're right around 350-ish right now. 700 is the goal. No, I do not have my RVD rolling papers. If you would like to send me some, but I don't think I would even know what to do with them. I would probably wrap my sandwich in it. Well, I don't know. I don't know what you would expect me to do with it, but anyway. Here we go. The show started with a recap of WrestleMania 42, all the highlights and lowlights, as it were. Michael Cole said that Brock Lesnar has called it a day, and they would be looking back at his career tonight. But we had Oba Femi, the man who conquered Brock Lesnar. Just last night at WrestleMania, he opened the show, as he should have. And he made his way out to the ring. He was all dressed up. He was out there, all dressed up in a suit, looking like he was about to sell you a badass sports car with a really good warranty. So he made his way down to the ring, and huge superstar reaction for this guy. I mean, he gets one every single week, but there was just a different feeling in the air tonight, coming off the biggest win of his career. Like, okay, WrestleMania was a statement night for him, and this was also a statement from the company that, okay, we recognize what we have here, and we're putting our weight and our might behind him. He has officially arrived. And for him, this really did feel like, okay, we're starting the Oba Femi era now of Monday. I hate to use a new era, but that's kind of what it felt like with him when he came out here. So he came down to the ring, and the fans are chanting his name, and they're barking even after the music stopped. And he just stood there. And he had a very serious look on his face, and he's staring straight ahead into the hard camera. And after several minutes of this, he kept it very short and sweet. He picked the microphone up to his mouth, and he said, "The ruler has arrived." And he dropped the microphone, and he left. Very reminiscent of the Roman Reigns segment from the Raw after Mania in 2017, when he stood in the ring and the boos, oh my God, this man was being drowned out by the boos. And just after like 8 minutes, he finally spoke. The crowd let him speak. And he goes, "This is my yard now." And he dropped the mic. Still one of the best post-Mania Raw segments of all time. Like, I being there for it, like the heat that this man generated was like nothing I had seen in a very long time. Only here it wasn't heat. It was love. It was all love for Oba Femi. He didn't have to say anything else. You know, if he's not going after the World Heavyweight Championship just yet, you don't really want to send him out there and be like, Roman Reigns, because now you're promising a match that you're not planning on doing, and it makes him look stupid if he comes out and brings up Roman, but then doesn't challenge him to a match. So I don't know what they're going to have in store for him as far as like if he's going to wrestle a Backlash or what that next big program is going to be. We can look ahead and see Roman Reigns. We can look ahead and see Gunther, right? These are obvious matches. It doesn't look like they're going to any of those just yet. So we'll see. We'll see what they have in store for him. But he is going to be the face of this brand before long. Right now, it's still, Roman Reigns. It was CM Punk. Now it's Roman Reigns. That's not going to change anytime soon. But inside of a year, he may well be the face of Monday Night Raw. It will not take that long. If it takes a year, if it takes 9 months, if it takes 18 months, Oba is going to be that guy on this show. He will get there. We have the new WWE Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. Her final night officially on Monday Night Raw, teaming with her BFF, who did not have a match at WrestleMania, Io Sky, to take on Asuka and Kairi Sane. I guess this is what Io meant last week when she wrote on social media, "See you in Las Vegas, Asuka." Little did we know she meant the Raw after WrestleMania, which was at the T-Mobile Arena tonight. Ahead of a commercial break, Kairi delivered an insane elbow to a standing Rhea Ripley outside the ring. Oba versus Danhausen. Okay, I think we just found the direction for Oba. So you're going to go from I can't even call it a feud. He did have 2 matches with him on SmackDown, but you're going to go from Kit Wilson to feuding Oba with Brock Lesnar and then having him in a program with Danhausen. I see. Mark Shapiro, is that you in the chat? I think we got some TKO moles in the chat. Trying to book the territory here. So the Kabuki Warriors, they held control through the commercial break. Io got the hot tag. She went to work. She also got the crowd noise up because they were pretty quiet for the first few minutes of this. Rhea gave Asuka a razor's edge. Io followed with a missile drop kick. Io caught Asuka with her crazy suicide dive out to the floor. Keyword there being suicide. Because this is the second time now in the last few weeks that Io Sky has brained herself on the floor outside. I think this actually looked worse. I'd have to go back and see it again, but I think this looked worse than the first time she did it, where she just comes out of the ring and it's not that she's like folded up on the back of her neck. Like she comes down right on top of her head and then she pops up and no-sells it. And it's like, I'm watching this and I'm just like, man, fuck. Like I know she's a Joshi and Joshis are just built different. I get it. But please stop landing on your fucking head. We talk about this sometimes with people, like when I'm watching AEW, and especially on these pay-per-views, and some of these guys, look, Will Ospreay is as guilty of this as anybody I've seen. Or I should say Kota Ibushi was. But there are certain wrestlers, it seems like they like landing on their neck, or they like being dropped on their head. And I just watch it and I wince and I cringe and I'm like, can we not do this? Can we not shorten your career by a few years? I love Io to death and the dives look great because they're so wild and out of control, but maybe there's a message there. So in the ring, Rhea gave Kairi a riptide. Io followed with her over the moonsault for the pin. So Io pinned Kairi, which preserves the future match, if we ever get it, between Io and Asuka. I am hopeful that will be the Backlash match. You never know with these PLEs. You know, Triple H doesn't like having more than 5 matches on these shows. I'm sure Backlash will have 5 matches. Of the 5 matches, would they actually give one of those spots to a women's match on the mid-card with no title involved? I'm skeptical. This could just as easily be a Monday Night Raw match in 2 weeks. But as far as Rhea, we'll talk more about her later because this was her send-off here. We had one more segment with her later in the show. Backstage, Adam Pearce was chatting with Penta, and he was congratulating the Intercontinental Champion on his win at WrestleMania. Javon Evans showed up, and he congratulated Penta, but he said he planned to become the Intercontinental Champion soon. He said that he should have been the Intercontinental Champion, basically. Penta said that the title wasn't leaving him anytime soon, and he did his catchphrase, and he left. And then Ethan Page walks in. I said, finally. I've been waiting for this guy. I thought maybe he'd end up on SmackDown, but this is fine. So he ends up on Raw here. He shows up, and Pearce introduces him to Javon Evans, who's very familiar with Ethan Page because these two have a history together in NXT. And when he walked in, again, this was in the back, but you could hear the crowd. The crowd in Las Vegas gave him a great reaction, when he walked in. They knew who he was, and they were happy to see him. So Page mocked Evans for thinking that he even deserved another title shot. He said that he wanted the Intercontinental title. And unlike Javon, he wouldn't need a second shot at it. Evans got up in his face, so Pearce got in between them and said, you could settle this in the ring tonight. The crowd was happy about that. In fact, the crowd let out such a cheer. Whatever Page said in response, I couldn't even hear what he said, because the crowd was so loud and he spoke so low, or maybe it was the way he was mic'd, but I couldn't even hear what he said. I love this move. Again, I was thinking maybe he would end up on SmackDown. I keep thinking of SmackDown because SmackDown really needs the help, and SmackDown has the extra hour. So you're going to need more people on that roster anyway. And also, he was doing the mixed tag thing with Chelsea Green. She's on SmackDown. So I thought maybe there could be something there, but he will do just fine on Monday Night Raw. He did very well for himself in NXT. He was very well regarded by Shawn Michaels. That much was clear. If you watch the new Shawn Michaels documentary on Peacock, there's some stuff on there, some interactions with him and Ethan Page. And I'm happy for him. He put the work in. He kind of transformed his body a little bit from when he was in AEW. He really didn't do a whole lot in AEW. He had a thing going with the Men of the Year with Scorpio Sky, and he was doing some stuff, but they never did anything significant with him. And so in NXT, because it is a smaller roster, he had the chance to show that he could be a top guy on a brand. And I think that really helped him, as opposed to him, let's say, signing and then being put immediately on Raw or immediately on SmackDown. He might have done well, but I actually think him being in NXT for so long benefited him. So I think he's going to do well, and I'm happy to see him get the call up. And also, the fact that he's already got eyes on the Intercontinental title, he's gonna have that championship within a few months. That title just has his name on it. It will literally have his name on it. Do they do nameplates anymore? I don't even know if they do. I think they do. If they do nameplates on the center plate, he will have his name on that title very soon. Now, they showed CM Punk. He was walking backstage, and the camera's following him through the gorilla position. Some fans were chanting his name. Some fans were noticeably booing. And he walked out onto the stage. No music. So very similar to his WrestleMania entrance. And he gets on stage. He gets down to a knee and he says, "It's..." And then the fans said, "Clobbering time." Then they played Cult of Personality. And he made his way down to the ring. So we had a little bit of story time here with CM Punk on Monday Night Raw. He said that he's dealt with a lot of loss recently. His MMA trainer, Duke Rufus, passed away in October. In November, Larry the Dog, he crossed over the Rainbow Bridge. WWE suffered a number of losses involving behind-the-scenes employees. He paid tribute to many of these people, by the way, on his jacket at WrestleMania. I talked about some of the names that were embroidered onto the jacket. So he mentioned some of those names. He mentioned the death of Bo Luders earlier this month. And he said, "I also lost the World Heavyweight Championship." And that stings less, obviously, than the other names that he mentioned. He's not trying to compare losing a wrestling title to these people that died. But the point is, he has suffered a lot of losses recently. And he thanked the fans for helping him deal with his grief. But he said he wasn't even supposed to be the world champion. which is what I mentioned when I talked about his reign at the end of the main event last night. I said this was not even supposed to happen. Seth Rollins got hurt, and he benefited from it. He had that match with Jey Uso on Saturday night's main event. He won the World Heavyweight Championship, and he ended up holding it all the way through WrestleMania, but he was a fighting champion. He would defend his title even on television, and he had a good run. You know, he had a good run for himself, and he had some quality wrestling matches out of it. He said he was just going to accept winning and losing the world title in 3 minutes from Gunther at SummerSlam before Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank, and that was going to be it. And he said he could have gone home, but he always stays ready. Look at this. He's jacking Matt Cardona. He's his gimmick. He's jacking Matt Cardona's gimmick, which could be taken a lot of ways, but I think you know what. Jesus Christ. I think you know what I mean by that. Stop jacking his gimmick. Anyway, I'm sure Matt Cardona was listening to this going, man, stop using my catchphrase. But he's always ready, he says. He says he became champion, and if he didn't stay ready, Jey Uso would be the one walking out here right now. And the fans booed. So he felt compelled to defend Jey Uso. He said, hey, I like to yeet like everybody else. He goes, get with the program, Las Vegas. So why is he out here then, he says, with a smile on his face and a pep in his step? Because even though he may have lost, he says he's still the best in the world. He's still the best in the world. And obviously that makes him very happy. He proved it last night, he said. He said he gave it everything he had, and he's not going to complain, and he's not going to go on vacation. He's going to stay ready because you never know when a championship opportunity might fall out of the sky. And he went to go leave, and he stopped in his tracks when they played Cody Rhodes' theme music. And out came the WWE champion. Hey, you guys are too much. You know that? You guys are too much. So the WWE champion came out. He pulled his shades off, and man, his eye does not look good. He had a very badly bruised black eye. At least it wasn't swollen shut like it was on Saturday night. It was actually open. And apparently there is no orbital injury. I don't think it's anything where he should be out for an extended period of time. Looking at him right now, I don't see how he can be medically cleared. So I don't know if the idea was that he would wrestle and defend his title at Backlash, let's say. I don't see how that, I mean, it might be possible, but I don't see how that timeline is going to work. So I'm not so sure about him defending that championship on that show. They do have Clash in Italy at the end of May. So maybe Roman defends at Backlash, and then Cody defends his belt maybe on that show. When you have two PLEs in the same month, I mean, you can kind of spread them out like that. But Cody gets in the ring, and he said, honestly, he was surprised by how chipper Punk was acting. Punk asked Cody, what, you thought I was going to come out here and crash out? And Cody said, yeah, I did. Cody's the one standing here and feeling and looking like a loser. And Punk said, well, does that mean that you think I should feel like a loser? Punk says that some people think he looks like a loser. I mean, sure, that could be a word that he would use to describe himself. On Saturday night, Cody beat a WWE Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer in Randy Orton. He also beat a friend and a mentor, which is a hard thing to do. Punk said, look at me. I hated my opponent. It was easy for me to go in there and kick the shit out of him. You had a harder job than I did because you actually liked the person that you were in the ring with. And you won and I lost. Says Cody's path is just keep winning. Keep defending that championship and just keep winning. Punk's is to stay ready because, again, you never know when a championship opportunity might fall out of the sky. So he drops the mic, he leaves the ring, and as he's leaving, Cody just says, just say when. And Punk smiles, and he walks to the back. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what you call a tease. They're queuing you up for the eventual match. Just don't know when that match is going to happen. If Punk moves to SmackDown, which is the move that would make sense because SmackDown could use him, then that makes the match a lot more likely. to happen this year, I could see that being a SummerSlam match. SummerSlam's 2 nights again this year. And so I could see that being a SummerSlam main event, but it could also be a WrestleMania main event. It's a big enough. Honestly, it is one of the biggest matches that WWE can do right now. Is Cody Rhodes against CM Punk. There are very few other matches I could think of. I mean, obviously people will talk about Rock and Roman or Cody and Rock, right? Because their story is unfinished. Roman and Oba, or so, you know, there are certain matches that are big matches that WWE can do. Cody and Punk, if it's not number 1, it's top 2 or 3. So that's not going to be a match that they're just going to want to give away. SummerSlam would be the absolute earliest I would see them doing that match. And even then, I'm not sure that's when they would want to do it. But what I also liked here in this segment was the contrast between these two. Now, normally, if somebody loses a world championship and they come out on television the next night or 2 nights later, and they're smiling and they're all happy, like it gets on my nerves. Because John Cena would do that all the time. Nothing ever bothered this guy. Nothing ever got under his skin. Everything was always, it was going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. Of course it was, because he inevitably, he always got the title back anyway. I'd be smiling too. But that used to drive me so fucking nuts. And in this case, you know, Punk came out and he explained it. He said, look, I went in there and I lost, but I'm happy because I proved that I'm the best in the world, which he didn't really prove that he's the best in the world because you fucking lost. But, you know, in WWE today, it's like, oh, well, as long as I entertained all of you, as long as I had a good performance, that's what counts. Like, blow me. It's about winning and losing. But he went out there and the way he explained it, like, whatever, it's fine. But I like the contrast of he lost last night and he came out and he was in a good mood. Cody won, and he walked out there, and he looked like he was in the fight of his life. I mean, he's like basically just sort of like almost limping down the aisle to the ring, and he looked very worse for wear, and he did not look to be in a great mood. So it was an interesting contrast considering who actually won and who actually lost this weekend. But we'll see when we actually get this match. If they move Punk over to SmackDown this Friday, how do you keep those two apart long enough? Like, it would just seem to me that you're going to have to get to that match sooner than later. So it would be more interesting to see how they keep them apart, considering the segment that we had tonight. And again, if Drew McIntyre stays on SmackDown, how do you keep those two apart? The whole point, like when they had their Hell in a Cell match and that was over, was that these two guys hate each other so much. Like, they cannot be on the same brand. They cannot coexist on the same show. So you have to separate them. But now if they're back on the same show, you're not going to go back to Punk and McIntyre. I almost feel like you would have to move McIntyre in that case. But they already moved, you know, Jacob Fatu. So to move him to the same show that Jacob just moved to, it's a little weird. I don't think they're going to do that. We got a pre-tape promo from Finn Balor talking about how Dom got everything that he had coming to him at WrestleMania. And the demon put him down. But he's not finished with the Judgment Day. He expected this type of betrayal from Dominic, but he didn't expect this from JD McDonough. So JD was a kid that walked into a gym in Ireland, and Finn helped him grow into one of the best performers on the planet. When he needed someone in the Judgment Day that would have his back no matter what, he chose McDonough. But JD chose Dom. Balor said he brought JD into this business, and tonight he's going to take him out. Then it was time for Ethan Page to officially make his in-ring debut on Monday Night Raw against Javon Evans. Fine little match here. They ended up outside where Evans laid Page out across the announce desk, and he had some evil intentions. But before we could find out what he had in mind, Rusev showed up. All of a sudden, he's right there. He's in the timekeeper's area. And he takes a swing at Javon, totally misses. And Javon, I think, punched him. And now Javon had a moment where he had to make a decision. Does he go after Ethan Page, his opponent, or does he go after Rusev? And he chose Rusev. So he dove over the timekeeper's barricade onto Rusev. Evans went to the ropes, but he got tripped up by Ethan. who finished him off with his twisted grin finish for the win. Rusev then attacked Javon in the ring, and Paige is just like, peace out. I'm getting out of here. I don't want to have anything to do with this. I got the dub. I'm on my way out. So he exited the ring. Rusev put Evans in the Accolade. Not for very long, though. They played Penta's music, and the Intercontinental Champion came sprinting down to the ring. He attacked Rusev, but when he went to the ropes, Paige came back, and he tripped up Penta. And Penta got wiped out with a Machka kick. Ethan was applauding Rusev. Rusev looked very nonplussed by all this. He kind of sneered at him. And at that point, Paige backed away, and Rusev locked Penta in the Accolade, and then he posed with the Intercontinental title. So the Intercontinental title scene right now on Monday Night Raw is looking pretty good. You know, you got Penta as the champion, and really all the guys, most of the guys, maybe not Ray, because I don't see him still being a part of this particular division, but like Penta, Dragon Lee, maybe JD McDonough, Rusev, those are the guys that are still going to be fighting over this championship. And now you add Ethan Page into the equation. And there's other possibilities as well. You got the Americanos. I mean, they weren't part of the ladder match. My hope is that when the two Americanos have their mask match at the end of next month, and Gable hopefully gets unmasked, we can get him back into the mix here. You know, away from the Americano bullshit, get him into the Intercontinental title scene. So they got a pretty good thing going. I think it's a pretty strong division right now. Basically the opposite of the tag team division on either show. That is not very strong. I wish I could say otherwise, but I'd be lying to you if I did. Now, after a break, we got the Judgment Day, all making their way down to the ring, including the new Women's World Champion, Liv Morgan. She came out, they all came out to her new song, Trouble. It's her new official entrance theme. So she called herself the greatest Women's World Champion of all time. She thanked her Judgment Day family. She also thanked her WrestleMania opponent. She thanked Stephanie Vicaire for reminding her that she was the most talented woman in WWE. This was her ring. This was her division. This was her show. And this is her championship. And if anybody thought that she was trouble before, just wait. So then she was interrupted. Not by Stephanie. She was interrupted by Sol Ruca from NXT, who got a much bigger reaction than you would think. Or maybe not. She's very popular. And she had that one match, that one main roster match on Saturday night's main event several months ago. And she was pretty over there too, but not like this. Crowd in Las Vegas, they knew exactly who she was. And she got a great reaction coming out here. She got into the ring. She called Liv an inspiration. She's like putting her over. She's saying all these nice things about Liv Morgan. And Morgan said that, Ruca, you got some nerve interrupting my celebration. But because you were so nice to me, I'm going to say this as nicely as I can. You are no Liv Morgan, sweetie. She told Ruca to get out of her ring, and Sol said, I'm not out here for a fight, but I'm not about to back down from one either. So Adam Pearce walked out. He could see where this was going, and he asked the fans in Vegas if they wanted to see a fight. They said they did. So he made a match between them, and that match would be happening right now. So we got a non-title, unplanned, impromptu non-title match between Liv Morgan and Sol Ruca. And I'm looking at Sol Ruca out there, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm trying to figure out like which one she reminds me of more. Just like in terms of the way that she's out there, the way she's dressed and everything. Is it more Jeff Hardy or is it more Lita? Because I definitely see a little bit of both in her. And that's not a bad thing because they were super fucking over back in the day. I mean, they went wild for Lita and everybody loved Jeff Hardy. So I don't know, there's something about, she's like a free spirit. Yeah, that plus also some of the gear that she wears. But I just can't figure out if there's one or the other. She kind of reminds me a little bit of both. So anyway, Morgan in the match here, she went for three amigos. Sol countered with a suplex of her own. She came off the top rope. Liv, though, caught her with a code breaker on the way down for a near fall. Morgan then went for Oblivion, and Sol did this cool like handstand counter out of it, and the fans popped for it. She had a super kick, And then she hit the Soul Snatcher. And even before she hit the Soul Snatcher, like, you could hear the crowd like they were anticipating it. And she hits the move, and it's the best finish in wrestling just visually. It's just a great move. And she hits it, and Liv Morgan rolls out to the floor to avoid being pinned. And the people booed. So then she did a handspring dive out over the top rope, wiped out all the members of the Judgment Day on the floor, and the Vegas crowd was just buzzing for this woman. So Jessica Carr is the referee. She's checking on Liv back in the ring, and she is taking forever to do so. And that allows Zarya to show up, her former friend and tag team partner. She shows up, and she sends Sol face first into the ring post, and she gives her a spine buster on the floor. The two of them are wrestling on NXT tomorrow night. So Jessica finally turns around. She sees Sol Ruca on the ground. Gee, I wonder what happened here. I didn't see nothing. So she starts counting. Sol was able to get back into the ring in time, just in time for Liv to hit Oblivion for the win. This was very good. I enjoyed this match, and I thought it was an excellent debut for Sol Ruca. Even though she lost, there's no shame in losing to the world champion. She gave her a tough fight, and she got to showcase, some flashy offense. She got to do the Soul Snatcher, which always gets over. The fans were fully behind her here in this match. And look, when you have a performance like that, even in defeat, you still get over. So this was, again, a great first night for her on Raw. They protected her with the Zarya interference. It also played into their match, right? Because Zarya cost her a win in her Raw debut. So now she's going to be, extra spicy now going into that match tomorrow night. But I have to point this out. This got 11 minutes. Actually, it got more like 8 minutes that we saw, because a good chunk of it happened during the commercial break. Even if you take the 8+ minutes that we saw on TV, this was longer than the Women's World Championship match between Liv Morgan and Stephanie Vicaire at WrestleMania. That is inexcusable. Inexcusable. You could have had a 7-minute Sol Ruca debut on Monday Night Raw and given Liv and Stephanie 11 or 12 minutes at WrestleMania. Like, the whole thing is just ass backwards. Like, what are we doing here? You built this issue up for months between these two women for the world championship, and they couldn't muster more than 7 minutes at WrestleMania. They got 11 tonight. Don't ask me. Don't ask me. I got no good explanation for it. Now, as the Judgment Day were leaving, they shot off Stephanie Vicaire's pyro, and it scared the shit out of Liv Morgan. Would have scared the shit out of me too if I didn't know it was coming. So then Stephanie comes out on stage, and Liv walks right up to her, and they come face to face. Liv raises the title over her head, and it looks like we are probably getting a rematch in a few weeks at Backlash. Seems to be the direction here. You got to have some rematches at Backlash. You expect it. You know they're coming. That one, again, my only hope there, Stephanie's not going to win the belt back, nor should she. Liv should have her run. My hope is that they get more time to really go out there and have a better match. So the time that they were shortchanged in Vegas, hopefully they get that and more in Tampa, and they can actually go out there and do some things that maybe they had planned to do at WrestleMania, didn't have the chance to do. Because they at least deserve that much, especially if that's going to be their last match together. So that would be my hope there. After this, we had the video package I alluded to earlier for Brock Lesnar, this historical look back at his career, starting from the moment he debuted as the next big thing in 2002, all the way up until his apparent retirement at WrestleMania this weekend. The choice of song I thought was perfect, especially because I don't remember what year I Stand Alone came out by Godsmack. I want to say it was early 2000s, and that's when Brock debuted. Like, it's funny, when they started playing the song here in the video, and I saw that first clip of him coming out on Raw, and not power bombing, but giving Maven the F5 and then power bombing Spike Dudley. Like, I'm listening to the song. It's so weird, like the way music works, where you hear certain songs and it takes you back to either a moment or a point in time. And when I hear that song and other songs like it from that genre, I always associate it with the Ruthless Aggression era. Because I feel like we were hearing a lot of that on WWE television at the time. Like, clearly somebody in production was like into that scene. So many pay-per-views and so many video packages, whether it was Godsmack or Creed and some of these other bands, Trust Company and Saliva and whatever else. It kind of takes me back to that time period. So for that reason, I thought that was a very, Scorpion King. Thank you. Yes. Scorpion King came out in 2002, I believe, which is the year that Brock debuted. So yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. This was very well done. It was very well done. Look, the guy was an athletic freak. There really has not been anybody like him that has come onto the scene and dominated and been pushed to the moon in the way that he was. You think back to his rookie year, he had as good of a rookie year as anybody in the history of this company. I think for me, it always came down to him and Kurt Angle. The rookie years that those guys had are better than any other rookie year that I've seen. And there have been some great ones. AJ Styles had a great rookie year. To me, none will top Brock Lesnar. Think of the way that this man burst onto the scene and the people they had him working with. Now, right out of the gate, they had him working with the Hardys because the Hardys were so over and they could bump for him and bounce around. But from there, like, he got in the ring with Ric Flair and he fucking beat Hulk Hogan with a bear hug on TV. They put the world title on him by SummerSlam. He debuted in April. And they put the WWE Championship on him in August. And then he worked Undertaker in 2 back-to-back pay-per-view matches and beat him in Hell in a Cell. And on and on and on. There's no better rookie year. Flair, Rock, Hogan, Undertaker. What the fuck? He would have beat Austin if Austin didn't walk out. Austin's like, fuck this. You're not blowing this match off unannounced on TV. In a qualifying match. Go fuck yourself. And he went home. His name would have been on that list too. Never been a better rookie year than Brock Lesnar. And I see people pointing that out when it comes to Oba Femi. And it would be very appropriate considering that Brock was beaten at WrestleMania by Oba. Oba is the next big thing. Could Oba be holding World Championship gold by SummerSlam? Very possible. That's why they call it the Brock push. Oba may be getting the Brock push. It's been done before. But I really do hope this is it for Brock. I don't think that there could be a better send-off for him. AJ Styles got his send-off at the Rumble. Cena got his send-off on an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. So did Goldberg. I think for Brock to get his on a show like Mania, on a stadium show in front of 50,000 people, and to go out by putting over the, quote-unquote next big thing in the way that he did, right, on ESPN, it's the biggest possible platform. I mean, there is an argument to be made. SummerSlam coming to Minneapolis, that used to be his home, or at least where he went to school. But like, that's kind of like Brock's place, and he won his first world championship from The Rock at SummerSlam. So like AJ debuting in the Rumble, there's like a historical significance there for him. The only way they would do that, or the only reason they would do that, is if he was going to wrestle Gunther. And to me, that's going to end up being a match that got away from them. For various reasons. They were not able to make that match happen. I'm okay with it staying that way. I don't see the need to bring Brock back. He got his send-off. He passed the baton. He passed the torch. What more could you ask for? Hopefully that was his retirement at WrestleMania. Now from Brock, we went to Paul Heyman, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory. Boy, you guys are having a lot of fun reminiscing, I see. Huh? Disturbed. How could I forget Disturbed? I forgot to mention them. Korn, Seven Dust. Anybody listen to Soil back then? Soil was another one. They had a great song called The One that I used to be a big fan of. God, who else? There were so many of those. So many of those bands. Paul Heyman and The Vision make their way to the ring. Heyman said his favorite part of WrestleMania is to expect the unexpected. And what he saw will live on in people's hearts for a long time. Earlier tonight, CM Punk was kissing the asses of everybody in the back. But the production team, they forgot to do one thing. They forgot to take Brock Lesnar out of the opening signature. Then, now, forever, together. And they had Lesnar in there under the now. He said, take him out. He is no longer part of the now. He is the forever. And he said that he was the baddest ever in a WWE ring. He gave us one more Brock Lesnar for the last time until he inducts Brock into the Hall of Fame one day. Assuming they could pay Brock enough to come in for the Hall of Fame. I think they do pay these guys. I think it used to be $5,000. If they ever want to induct Brock into the Hall of Fame, I think it might take more than that. I think it will, to get him to fly in for the Hall of Fame and do any kind of speech. I think you would have to pay him a tidy sum, but Heyman would have to be the one doing the induction. But now we're talking about the Vision. The Vision is the now. Talking about Austin Theory and Logan Paul. And he handed the microphone off to Logan. And Logan got nuclear heat from the crowd here in Vegas. They booed him every time he tried to speak. They drowned him. It's like the Dominic Mysterio, the old Dominic Mysterio effect. And they would not let him speak. But Logan says the only reason that the Usos and LA Knight stole the win from him in Austin is because of that backstabbing weasel, I Show Speed. He's sick of these YouTubers and streamers thinking that they can do whatever they want. They can come into their business and do this. He hates those outsiders. Says nothing that happened at WrestleMania matters because I Show Speed left with a piece of his fist lodged in his face. And the Vision are still the World Tag Team Champions. So Heyman wants to take a moment now to realize the great favor that was done for him by Gunther, who beat Seth Rollins. And he said he is willing to repay that favor to Gunther anytime he wants. But the best assist of the weekend goes to the man that cut Seth Rollins in half. And with that, he introduces Braun Breaker, who has a lot more hair on his head than the last time we saw him prior to this weekend. So Breaker comes down to the ring and he hugs everybody. And he says that he was thinking about how it was 1 year ago that he took the leadership over of the Vision in this very arena because Seth Rollins was too weak. And I'm like, I think his timeline may be off a little bit. So Braun's favorite part about WrestleMania weekend was watching Rollins getting so close to beating Gunther and then ruining everything for him. That brought him a lot of joy. Braun hopes Seth is back in the back somewhere or watching somewhere. From here on out, he's going to attack him every single day. So Seth Rollins struck first. He hit him from behind with a chair. And then he got swarmed by the rest of the Vision. The Street Profits music hit. I mean, talk about random. When was the last time we saw these guys? So they come out. No shirts on. No red Solo cups. They're all business. Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, they charge down to the ring. They attack Austin Theory and Logan Paul. Champs get sent to the floor. Montez dives out onto them, lands on his feet, and they brawl into the crowd. Meanwhile, in the ring, Braun Breaker, he eats a super kick because he's coming in, but he eats a super kick from Seth Rollins. Breaker, though, avoids the stomp, and he hits a spear. Now, Breaker was bleeding badly, and I couldn't tell at first. Then it was very clear. He was bleeding from the back of the head. So that chair shot from Rollins, I guess the lip of the chair maybe, caught him a little too well in the back of the head. So he'll probably need some stitches or staples. I couldn't see where the wound was, but he was bleeding pretty badly from the back of the head. And he tears off Seth's shirt, and we see tape underneath from Seth's match the night before. And Breaker talks his shit, and he says the people will remember him, being Rollins, as a shell of what he used to be. And Braun picked him up, And he hit the ropes back and forth to build up speed. And then one last super spear puts down Seth Rollins. So we know we're going to get a match between them. I mean, we've known this for a while, right? They were just waiting for these guys to get healthy. Is it going to happen at Backlash? I would say probably. That would be a Backlash match. Unless they want to save it for a little bit longer, maybe until the end of May. But we're going to get a match between them. And when we do, I would suspect that you wouldn't want to be beating Braun Breaker. But Rollins just lost to Gunther at WrestleMania. So I don't know if they want him to just go in there and lose again. The outcome of that match is a little dicey. It should be a Braun Breaker win, though. And we'll see if Rollins has to enlist some help here, because right now he's all by himself. He's outmanned. You got Theory, you got Logan Paul, you got Braun Breaker. Eventually Bronson Reed is going to be back, but that's not going to be for a few more months. Is Rollins going to recruit some friends? And if so, who is that going to be? Can't keep going out there every week and getting his ass kicked. Maybe he'll bring his ninja friends back. Boy, they disappeared, didn't they? He may have to re-enlist some of the ninjas. Finn Balor against JD McDonough. McDonough also, like Rollins, came out with his ribs taped up. He had a good excuse for it, though. From the ladder match at WrestleMania, where this fucking guy, in the ladder match last night, took a destroyer onto a ladder bridge. And they had him out here on Raw the next night wrestling another match. God bless this guy. He has my respect. So they brawled briefly into the crowd. Balor got his mouth busted open. I didn't see how. A lot of hard way blood on this show. So JD avoids a shotgun drop kick, connects with the giant, and I do mean giant, head for the headbutt. JD goes up top, moonsault, and he eats the knees on the way. Actually, it wasn't even the knees. He got kicked in the fucking face on the way down. Shotgun drop kick connects. Balor goes up, hits the coup de grace, gets the 3 count. It was decent, for the 3 minutes that they got. How are you going to give Finn Balor and JD McDonough 3 minutes? When they kicked him out of the Judgment Day, I thought we were going to get this match weeks ago on Raw, and I was actually looking forward to it. I think they advertised it, and I was actually looking forward to it. And I had some people go, "It's fine. They're gonna save it for a PLE." Really? Because we got 3 minutes of it that actually aired. I'm not counting the commercial shit, because I saw all the commercials tonight. I couldn't see what was going on during the commercials. 3 minutes. One and done. Thanks for coming. These two can do so much more. These two guys, if you gave them a solid 10 to 12, just one time to go out there and just have a banger of a match, they would absolutely go out there and tear the house down. Even if the people at the beginning were quiet, like by midway through, like they'd be hanging on to every near fall. They ain't doing this match on a PLE. I think this was the last of it tonight that we saw. So Dom attacks Finn from behind after the match. Balor fights back. He's set up for the coup de grace, and McDonough pulled Dom out of the way to safety. I wish I could tell you that, this was some really good television match, but when you see 3 or 4 minutes of it, what is there to say? How do you even adequately review a 3-minute match? A 3-minute television match. That's all I even need to say, and you can just visualize it in your head. Barely had enough time to get going here. This is where PLEs having 5 matches really hurts. Yeah, it does. Not saying they all have to have 8, 9 matches, but when you are just married to capping it at a certain number, it really does. It really does handicap you. Now, Jackie Redmond interviewed Gunther in the back, who was all smiles after his win against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. And he said he feels fantastic. He proved everything that he said about Seth Rollins was true. But he wanted to make it clear there was no we, because she asked him about Heyman. There's no we when it comes to him and Paul Heyman. Heyman simply owed him a favor. and Jackie pressed him for more information on what that was. Gunther ignored her. He just said, the only thing people should expect is the World Heavyweight title back around my waist. LA Knight interrupts. And I see this guy walk in. I'm just like, oh, this fucking guy. He congratulates Gunther, but he isn't the only one with eyes on that world championship. The way he sees it, Gunther needed a 3-on-1 advantage to win at WrestleMania. He didn't. So the way he sees it, Gunther got an L at WrestleMania. And he did his catchphrase and he left, and Gunther was not amused. Poor LA Knight. We know how this story ends. That's all I can say. Elsewhere backstage, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, they shared a heartfelt goodbye. This was like something out of a soap opera. And Rhea told Io, handle your business on Raw. I'm going to go be champion on SmackDown. And Io said, I don't know. I couldn't really hear what she said, but she was very sad. Rhea was very sad. I was very sad. Usually SmackDown is the show where everybody is all depressed. We had a little bit of that on Raw tonight. So as Rhea was walking away, we see Liv Morgan just happens to be chilling on top of one of the equipment cases. And she sees Rhea walk by and she made a comment to her. She said, see you around. And Rhea said she was looking forward to it. A nice little nod to their past feud. And now both of them are world champions, going their separate ways. And so at nearly 10:30 p.m., and this is normally a 2.5, not even a 2.5 hour show. There are weeks where Raw's over at 10:20, 10:24, but it's nearly 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. And an SUV pulls up to the arena outside, and look who decided to grace us with his presence. It is the World Heavyweight Champion, Roman Reigns, late arriving here to the building. And he exits the vehicle, he walks through the back to Gorilla, and he encounters his cousins. The Usos are just standing around waiting for him. And he goes to enter by himself. He stops, he thinks about it, and he invites his cousins to join him. So the Usos come out with him. Roman, by the way, is back to his OG Tribal Chief theme, which is the better theme song. I'm glad he went back to it. Or as I call it, his heel music. So he made his way out to the ring with the Usos, but first they snuck in one last commercial break. Tell all your friends that on the flip side of this break, Roman Reigns is going to speak, and he's going to ask everybody to acknowledge him. So they come back, and he's in the ring, and he said he was going to keep it simple and just talk about the future, but then he ran into his cousins, and it makes sense that they discuss some family business first. He said, I miss this. And Jay said, yeet. He misses having their full trust. He misses having their full respect and their love and their admiration. He misses doing business with them. Separated and scattered, they're weak. CM Punk and people like him can run their mouth and disrespect them when they're separated. Some rapper from the 90s runs his mouth to Jay. He's talking about Cameron. Says Jay's got washed rappers running their mouths to him. You know why? That's because they're separated. That's not them. Together they have the power. Nobody can touch them. They ran this business for 4 years straight. He's not asking them to serve him. He's asking them to be his blood and stand with him. I'm telling you, man, Roman is still manipulating his family. This guy hasn't changed a lick. Playing mind games with them. God, we need to be back together. Of course, because he's got a championship again. So now he's got to do everything in his power to make sure he doesn't lose the title. He has to insulate himself from any and all potential conflicts and challengers and people that may be gunning for him. And so I need backup. I need you guys with me. You're my blood. Basically, they need to be his shield. They're just too stupid to realize it. So Jimmy says, I speak for my brother when I say this. Roman will always be their tribal chief. They the twos and we the ones. So Jimmy threw the mic down. He and Jay threw the ones up to the sky, and they stood beside Roman. And at this point, we hear Jacob Fatu's music. So now things are getting interesting. Fatu makes his way down to the ring. He's got a mic in his hand. Roman says, "It's been a while since the last time I saw you. There can be only a couple of reasons why you would come out here. I have to assume it's to acknowledge me." Fatu says, "Nah, that ain't it." "Well then, I guess it's because you want this." Talking about the World Heavyweight Championship. And Jacob says, "I don't want that title. I need that title." And Roman has this just annoyed look on his face. Jacob says he's not out here to be tribal chief, but he needs everything that the tribal chief has. He needs the shoe deal. He needs the private jets. He needs that Rolex. He needs more vehicles. He needs a bigger house. He has to put his kids into better schools, and he'll do anything for his family, even if he has to go through Roman. Goes to Backlash. He's leveling up his household, and Roman is going to know that Jacob Fatu is all gas and no brakes. And there are chants of Fatu from the crowd. So Roman says, "I agree with you. I want all those things for you too. Maybe you can beat me. But if you can beat me, can you handle the burden of this title?" Says, "But on the other side, if you can't beat me, can you handle the burden of having to acknowledge me?" Says, "Understand this. I think the air up there, right, this rarefied air that he's in, this is the top of the mountain." So he's going to give him the rest of the week to think about it. He's not saying yes. He's not saying no. But he's not sure that Jacob is ready. So he'll see Jacob next week on Raw. Little cousin. And on that note, after calling him little cousin, they left the ring, and that is how they went off the air. First of all, getting Jacob on Raw is a dub. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a big Jacob Fatu guy. He did a lot in recent months outside of the little break he took. On SmackDown, he feuded with a few different people. And now it feels like, okay, some of his family, his cousins now are on this show. He has not been on Raw officially. He'll have new faces to work with, and he can be at or near the top of the card. This is a good spot for him to be in. They have largely kept him and Roman apart for the most part since Jacob got signed. And so now the idea that not only are we going to get a match between them, but this is probably going to be the main event. I'm assuming Cody will not even be defending his title at Backlash. This is very likely going to be the main event of Backlash on May 9th. So they're going to have the chance to go out there and they're going to get good time. Because look, if anybody's not going to be shortchanged, it's going to be Roman Reigns. They're going to have plenty of time to go out there and have a great match. And I'm very much looking forward to it. The question is, how does it end? Where do you go at the end of that match? Are we looking at a one and done? Are we looking at a situation where at the end of all of this, Jacob acknowledges him because he's part of the family, he's part of the bloodline, he falls in line. Roman has Jacob, he's got Jimmy, he's got Jay. It's the bloodline all over again. Only instead of Solo Sikoa, we have Jacob Fatu. That doesn't really appeal to me. Even the idea of like Jacob Fatu being part of a group that it's almost like he's back to the whole dynamic with him and Solo Sikoa where he's got his hands together like, I love you, Solo. Like, we don't need to go back to that version of Jacob. If anything, Jacob should be a leader of his own crew. And maybe that could be a possibility, right? Maybe at the end of all this, the Usos, they're not so dumb. They see what's going on here. Maybe they end up aligning with Jacob Fatu. There's different ways you can go with it, but it's still the bloodline. So I like Jacob being included. If he wasn't included, it would be very hard for me to really get excited about this. But, him being a part of this, to me, it offers just enough of a different element that I'm curious to see where it goes. The thing that I'm happy about is that we are going to get to see Roman more often. I don't know how often he'll be wrestling, because not like I'm expecting him to be working matches on Raw 2 or 3 times a month. But just having him on the show, having him present, having him in segments on the show, instead of having an absentee world champion, which if that was going to be the case, The worst decision they could have made was to put a world title back on him. But now that he has said he'll be here through the summer, we'll get to see him work with a few different people. Maybe he drops the belt to Gunther at SummerSlam. Maybe he drops the belt to Oba at SummerSlam. Those are two big matches that you can build to. Those are two big matches that I'm excited thinking about. Or especially Roman and Oba would be, to me anyway, more interesting than Roman and Gunther would be. But Roman and Gunther would be a fresh match too. I mean, we saw them at the end of the Royal Rumble this year for a few minutes, but they've never wrestled before, right? To my knowledge. So the biggest takeaway for me from Raw tonight is that they tried to put a fresh coat of paint on things where a week ago, CM Punk really was the top star on Monday Night Raw. And now it is very clear Roman Reigns is the top star on Monday Night Raw, and he's going to be around. And now you've moved Jacob Fatu over to Monday Night Raw, seemingly. CM Punk, it looks like he may be headed for Fridays. We know Rhea is. There's a realignment going on, which is good. I think coming out of WrestleMania, you should have something of a realignment with some of these shows. But there are certain names from NXT who are overdue for a call-up. Ricky Saints, I think you can move him over to Friday nights. Blake Monroe should already be on Friday nights. JC Jane is the one who I'm pretty confident she's going to be on television very soon on probably Fridays. So we'll see what other name. Joe Hendry, I mentioned him. Ethan Page is here. I like these moves. It's a welcome change. It just freshens things up a little bit. You know, you can't just run with the same players and the same feuds and the same matches over and over and over again and keep things fresh and interesting. You know, you just can't do that. So that was my big takeaway from this show. It wasn't like we had a lot of banger matches tonight or anything, but they have set the table now for what will hopefully be an interesting spring here on Raw. Because WrestleMania is over. All the hoopla, all the excitement around WrestleMania, it's over. And the hardest part of the year is really two things. You have this post-Mania hangover where WrestleMania is over and you have to, now you're in rematch mode, but you also have to start some new stories with some new people. And like May and June, those aren't like the biggest times a year. And then you also have the fall, but I think of that holiday period, post War Games, where it's like a dead zone typically, which is why John Cena wanted to have his retirement match in December. It's like nothing is going on in December. Why don't we have my retirement match in December? So this is one of those times a year where you've got to try something different, you know, and try to create an element of excitement around these shows where it can feel very dead, you know, this time of year. So I enjoyed the show for the most part. No Twitter poll to show because for whatever reason, I can't log in anymore with an OBS. And so the Twitter poll is up. If you would like to vote, I just can't show them anymore. But I will tell you that the poll is currently sitting at 82% thumbs up and 18% thumbs down for tonight's show. So it seems like most people enjoyed Monday Night Raw tonight, which is good. As long as you give me something that I can either get excited about or something to talk about, I don't want to sit here and be like, man, this was a fucking bore. Those are the worst shows. Go to your super chats. What did you think of Raw? What do you think of some of these roster moves? Who would you move around? By the way, we are currently sitting at 690 likes. We need 700. 700 is the goal for Be the Booker. Yes, hashtag get Solo excited. Get me excited. That's all I ask. Get me excited. Hey, Joseph Stewart, you were missed this weekend at WrestleMania. It's good to see you. It's good to have you back. He's got a few questions. Happy Monday to you too. This is a buy or sell Undertaker versus Mankind Boiler Room Brawl at SummerSlam, or Undertaker versus Mankind Hell in a Cell. King of the Ring 98. Well, obviously, I mean, King of the Ring 98 is the more memorable spectacle. I enjoyed the Boiler Room Brawl. I'm actually a fan of that match. But gotta go Hell in a Cell. It says, it's official. Scarlett Johansson will be playing Harvey Dent's wife in The Batman Part 2. And she could be rewritten as the Phantasm. I rely on Joseph for all my Batman updates. I haven't been paying attention to what's been going on with the production on that movie. It says Charles Dance is in talks to join The Batman 2 as Harvey Dent's father. I should probably see the first one. Why did David Flair not become a big star in WCW? Because he wasn't very good. Are you a fan of Liv Morgan's new song and music video? I don't mind the new song. It's fine. It's fine. Do you remember Macho Man having a feud against Dennis Rodman in WCW? I think it was over Gorgeous George. Yeah, I think that was actually one of the last, if not the last, pay-per-view matches that Savage ever had in WCW. I think it was. I think it might have been his singles match anyway. I think that was the last pay-per-view match he had there. I also remember that match being garbage. It was not a very good match. Were you a fan of Dominic Mysterio's entrance at WrestleMania? Yeah, it was cool. Coming out with the lucha mask on the throne. Wasn't the best entrance of the weekend or anything, but it was fine. Was Ric Flair against Eric Bischoff in WCW based off their real-life feud at the time? And were you a fan of the feud? It was very much a case of art imitating life. Yes. They did not like each other. Me personally, I didn't really care for the feud. There was no real payoff to it. You were never going to get a good payoff to it. You know, we had that one memorable segment where Flair came back in like September of 98. You know, fire me. I'm already fired. Fire me. He went on that rant. That was entertaining, but beyond that, I'm not really a fan of that feud. Did you see Mike Myers' appearance at a tribute show for Eddie Murphy this past weekend? I was indisposed this past weekend. I was in full wrestling mode, so no, I didn't see it. There wasn't much I was really paying attention to outside of wrestling this weekend. Do you remember when Master P appeared on WCW? Yes. Master P and the No Limit Soldiers. I remember that well. What should WCW have done in 1999 to keep people interested in the product at the time? I think by then it was too late, but what they should have done is utilize their established stars to really set up the future and try to create some new stars that could carry them for years beyond. Because Hogan and Nash and people like that, they were not going to do it. Hogan, Nash, Luger. And they just didn't do it. They didn't do a good enough job of creating stars for the future. And that was one of the reasons they died. What are your thoughts on Sid Vicious's son, Gunner, talking about how his dad was honored at the Hall of Fame? I think that he was right in a lot of what he said. And I'm going to talk more extensively about that tomorrow on the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. I'm going to have my full thoughts on the Hall of Fame as part of the show tomorrow. Have a blessed day, a safe day, a wonderful day, and a great week. You too, Joseph. Thank you for the questions. I appreciate it. It's good to see you. Crypto and poker solo, in my opinion, Mania should be in Vegas every year. I think you may be a little bit biased in that, though. It should not be. Although I always enjoy my time there. I might enjoy it more if I gambled, but I don't. GMB World Champion before Braun. Oba will, but will Fatu as well? Will Fatu be a world champion before Braun Breaker? I'm going to say no. Marquand 1976. Hey, Solo, I had a medical appointment last Thursday. Was unable to attend the HOG show. Hope you guys will return to Vegas soon. Also, could you see Wendy Chu having success on the main roster? Well, I'm sorry you missed it. You missed a hell of a show. And no, I don't think with that character, no, I don't think Wendy Chu is going to have much luck on the main roster. I don't think we're going to necessarily see Wendy Chu on the main roster. Dry Chicken Smokey and Craig from Friday tells Cody Rhodes, damn. That was my first thought when I saw him take the glasses off. And I saw what his eye looked like. Mark Shapiro and TKO have full WWE creative control. Triple H and his team reap what they sow. Shapiro wants more is more, not less is more. Yeah, I mean, this is not news. I mean, we know they... Again, people, they hear these things and they misread them and they think, oh, they're in the room. They're in the writer's room. They're submitting ideas weekly on what... No, that's not what they're doing. That's not what he means. We already know that TKO has control over everything. The Winston Slip. Roman has 11 WrestleMania main events. How many were great? Several of them, actually. 31 was great. 30... He wasn't at 36, though, right? 31 was great. 37 was great. 39 was great. 40 was great. 41 was great. And 42 was great. He's had a lot of great matches at WrestleMania. I don't know if that was supposed to be a gotcha for him, but he's had a lot of great WrestleMania matches. Devin from NJ, did you see the video of Punk smacking the phone out of the fan's hand? Was he out of line, or do fans need to get a life? I think these fans need to get a life. I probably would have done the same thing that he did. Chris O'Neill, do we get a new Bloodline member? Other than maybe Fatu? I'm going to say no. San Juan Wolf. Every time I see the Americanos on my TV screen, I physically and mentally deflate. For all that is holy, I wish they would keep that shit on AAA. Outside of that, I enjoyed Monday Night Raw. Were they on the show tonight? They had to be during the commercial break then. I didn't see them tonight. Aaron says, looks like we won't find out who attacked Jacob. Yeah, it looks like we're not going to find out for sure. The story has been abandoned. Retro KOH, random thought, Punk was completely justified smacking that creeper fan's phone. Good on him. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. They were creeping on my wife. He's lucky he didn't do worse to him. Could have shoved him on his ass. Nico, thank you for the pair of super chats. Says LA Knight, poor bastard. Yeah. I mean, what else is there left to say on that? Or Whizzle. The green shirt crew were representing tonight. Yeah, I saw all those green shirt guys in the front row. It was blinding. Looked like they're multiplying. Plus Ultra Adrian. Been a fan since 2014. Love everything you do, Solo. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed, Adrian. There's been a lot of content lately. It would suck if you didn't enjoy it. Alex says, Brother Solo, if those Mark Shapiro rumors are true regarding TKO having full creative control, then this company is cooked. They're not in the writer's room. Again, people I think are taking this a little bit out of context. I don't think we really learned anything there that we didn't already know. Chicago for MBK, with the new call-ups coming for Raw and SmackDown, who do you think are the most high-profile names that could get the axe in the coming weeks? I don't really want to speculate on who might get fired and lose their job. You know, we do tend to have spring cleaning around this time of year. I would just say, if you are somebody who, and frankly, even people who might be injured, because it's not above this company to fire people when they're out on the injured list, but if you're somebody who's not being utilized right now, and there are a lot of people who would fall under that category. If you're sitting around backstage and catering, if they don't have anything for you, if you're laying around on crates, I would be worried. Because that just means you're expendable. Jeremy Rose looking forward to Roman versus some fresh opponents on Raw. Jacob, Gunther, Penta, Oba, even an LA Knight program again. Yeah. Boy, you guys really have it in for LA Knight, don't you? You're putting him in there with Roman Reigns. He's going to be in there with Gunther soon. Let him savor the win over iShow Speed. Let's just let him enjoy his moment while he can. Larry Jester, should Oba win a mid-title or main event gold first? Main event. Him winning the Intercontinental title does nothing for him. Aaron with a $4.99. Io was getting all emotional like she won't see Rhea again since she's on SmackDown. Meanwhile, she's been showing up on SmackDown for weeks with no explanation. It's all very stupid. People go back and forth every week without repercussions. If she was missing Rhea that badly, she could pop up on SmackDown and Nick Aldis would probably just wave and say, hey, good to see you. And go about doing whatever it is that he does. I still have no idea what he does on that show. On SmackDown most weeks, 75% of the card is not set. He's making matches during the show. I don't know what this man does over the course of a day. Prince Vegeta with a $9.99. I rewatched the main event from last night, and I have to say that was a legacy-defining match for Punk, and my second favorite Roman Reigns match, only behind the 41 with Cody. 5 stars. It's a great match. William Rabb says Punk stayed on Raw after he was feuding with Cena last year for the WWE title. I think Fatu will do the same with Roman and still be on SmackDown after this feud. Well, that would be very stupid. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that would be very stupid. Aaron, who do you think would be the heel with Cody and Punk? Are you asking me who I think the fans would take as the heel or who WWE would book as the heel? I think the best way to approach that match would be to just leave them alone. Exactly as they are now, let the fans choose. And the fans, I think, would choose Punk. To be honest with you, the more I think about it, like if one was going to be the heel, I mean, I could take it either way, honestly. I think heel Punk would be fun, but so would heel Cody. When the day eventually comes that he leans into it or turns, everybody loves to talk about Homelander Cody. I think either one as a heel would be a lot of fun. But do I think that one of them will absolutely be a heel? No, it would probably be more likely babyface against babyface. But the fans would pick sides, as they usually do. Base Beerus, thank you for the 420. Duff's Vids with a 499. What did the gardener say when she planted the wrong flowers? Oopsie daisy. Fabian Garcia with a 5. WrestleMania Night 2 and Revolution 2025. The definition of main event deciding opinion of a show entirely. One made an okay show great. The other one made a great show eh. My God. Was that Moxley and Copeland? What a fucking terrible match that was. Oh my God. I still have people to this day trying to convince themselves that they're right and I'm wrong when I say that WrestleMania 36 match at the Performance Center with Edge and Orton was anything other than just boring shit. Still, I have people trying to convince me I'm wrong. It's amazing. Derek J speaks with a $9.99. I would not be so quick to assume Fatu was on Raw permanently. In 2024, SmackDown's Randy Orton faced Raw's Gunther on a PLE, and after Randy lost, he went right back to SmackDown. They have set a precedent for this. Base Beerus says Roman's original theme is perfect. OTC remix sucked. Yeah, the OG theme is far superior. TGN 420 for the 420 Raw. Fatu versus Reigns sounds hype. Aaron says, could Zilla show up at Backlash to even the odds? No. And Mr. Wrestling with the $4.99. If you were running WWE, which would you choose? A legit brand split or a 1 to 2 week break after Mania to recharge the batteries? I would take a short break. That's what I would do. It might be bad for business for me, but as a fan, I think that's the option I would choose. Nothing wrong with a quick break. 742 likes. The goal was 700, so we smashed the goal. MacTub, how big of a drawing megastar was Flair? Flair was not a megastar. I think he drew very well as the traveling champion in the 80s. But he, by no means was he ever a megastar. Even he admits that. That's why he would always say Hogan was the best. Hogan couldn't wrestle as good as Flair. But Flair knew like Hogan was a much bigger box office attraction. Sold a lot more tickets than he did. Alex says there's 2 PLEs and a Saturday night's main event in May. Do you think that's too much? I do. I didn't even realize that was the case until you just mentioned it, but that's true. We have Backlash on May 9th. We have, or May 8th, May 9th. Saturday night's main event is the 23rd. It's the week before Clash in Italy, which I think is on the 31st. And we have Double or Nothing on the 24th. Ugh. That's a lot. The MacTA, better overall performer, Roman or Triple H? I mean, it's all in the eye of the beholder. Neither one of them are my favorite. So I'm not really married to one over the other. But as far as like the better overall performer, I would go probably Triple H. Cameron Spencer, Royce Keys should join the New Day and be the powerhouse of the group like Big E Langston. Wow, he still has the Langston in there. This is going old school now. Not even Big E, it's Big E Langston. Says that would be dope. Are you down for that? No, I am not. I don't like that idea at all. I think it would be beneath Royce Keys. I think Royce Keys is, I think the potential that he has is far beyond just throwing him into the New Day. I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of that idea. Aaron says, which WrestleMania was better, this year or last year? I have to go last year, probably. This was the first time where WrestleMania really, it was so over-commercialized this year at the expense of the actual matches in a way that no WrestleMania before it was ever that bad. in terms of that. It really did feel like this was the first time they truly, as far as WrestleMania goes, where they truly sold their soul. It's like when Austin sold his soul to McMahon at WrestleMania X7. This was the year where it kind of hit you right between the eyes. That TKO, as far as WrestleMania goes, they officially sold their soul. And in terms of the matches and the stories at WrestleMania, they don't mean nothing anymore. They don't mean a damn thing. That's sad. Navy says Lesnar should return wearing the salmon jacket. I can't even in my head picture him wearing like a sport coat or a suit. The Crazy Men 88, Royce Keys, Sheamus versus Cena. Royce Keys, Sheamus versus Cena Esquire title. What does that even mean? I'm trying to decode this. I have no idea what the hidden message is in here. Power Spying Games, top 5 LOL TNA moments. Dude, we'll be here for days. I can't answer that. We'll be here. I'll give you probably the biggest one is Dixie Carter talking shit about the head of their own television network in an email. And I'm trying to remember if I think she actually copied them unknowingly on the email, but they found out about it. I think they were on the actual email chain. And not long after that, I do believe they were gone from Spike TV. So there may be no bigger LOL TNA moment than that. Supersedes all of the other ones. EJ Slamp, what do you think of my MVPs by decade? 70s Race, 80s Flair, 90s Brett, 2000s Angle, 2010s Brian, 2020s Cody. Race in the 70s. That sounds like a documentary. Harley Race as the MVP of the 1970s. He'd be up there for sure. I don't know. I don't know, man. I think of Bruno. I think of Terry Funk. That wasn't my era anyway, so I can't really say one way or the other. 80s is Hogan or Flair. It really depends on the kind of wrestling you grew up on. I think if you grew up not watching WWF and you were more into like Mid-Atlantic, NWA, Florida, Territorial, right? Crockett Promotions. Flair was the guy. Or Dusty. Some people might say Dusty. If you were watching WWF, the answer was Hulk Hogan. If you were watching both, it's really a matter of personal taste. Like when you say MVP, what do you mean by that? In terms of overall popularity, in terms of tickets sold, in terms of business generated, the answer is Hulk Hogan. It's pretty simple. In terms of match output, probably Flair. Flair would be the guy. In the 90s, you know, I mean, I'm as big of a Brett guy as you'll find, but again, I go back to like, what's the criteria here? Look at the decade that Hogan had in the 90s. He was down from the peak of his popularity in the 80s. Still very popular. Went to another promotion, and then as part of this NWO angle, went heel and got a whole new lease on life. And was a big part of why that company became number one for a few years. So there's an argument to be made that Hogan was 80s and 90s. Some people might say Shawn Michaels. He was the wrestler of the 90s. 2000s, he says Angle. Yeah. Yeah, and it was between two different companies too. 2010's Brian. Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't disagree on that, but like, I do wonder if Punk had stuck around. You know, if he would have been the answer to that question. In 2020's Cody. Cody or Roman. It's one of those two. Probably Roman. But I think it's one of those two for sure. Aaron says Cena for the 2000s. In-ring angle was 2000. Yeah, so again, to the point that I was just trying to make, what's the criteria? Cena would be another good choice, absolutely. The Crazy Men. Sheamus beat Cena rather quick upon being on the main roster in shocking fashion, but protected all involved. Keys can do the same against Cody and Ray. Okay, well, that makes more sense. The way the super chat was written, I'm like, I don't know what this means. Yeah, I think Royce Keys should get a big push on SmackDown. Just, make him a dominant force on that show. I'm not saying you have to belt him up right now, but you can keep him very strong, and I think he could be a key player on that brand. Absolutely. What did Flair lack to be a megastar? He didn't have the big national push that Hogan had. And he also did not have the superhuman physique that I think was very appealing to the masses. Hogan literally, he looked like something, as many of those guys did, like Warrior. He looked like something out of a comic book. The way those guys were all gassed up, there's a reason why you look back at that and people use the expression larger than life. And Flair didn't have that. Flair had a very regular, with the white hair and everything, he looked like an old man. So there was a certain physical look that he didn't have that those guys like Hogan did. And also, frankly, as charismatic as Flair was, Hogan had his own unique charisma. And it was a kind of charisma that Flair didn't have. He cut promos in his own way, and he was very charismatic in his own way. But just stuff like that. He just wasn't, he wasn't that same guy. That would not appeal to the masses in the way that someone like Hogan and his shtick would. Alex says, can you see WWE waiting on Orton retiring so they can induct the OVW class of 2002 together to the Hall of Fame? I don't think they would have put that much thought into it, to be honest with you. That'd be kind of cool if they all went in at the same time, but I also don't think they would want to put Orton and Cena in the same class because they're running out of big names to induct. So when the time comes, Orton could headline a Hall of Fame class by himself. Cena will headline a Hall of Fame class by himself. Brock could potentially headline a Hall of Fame class by himself. Why would you put them all in together at the same time? I wouldn't do that. Devin, if Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, and Paul Heyman are the three greatest managers, who would be number 4 for one to make a Mount Rushmore? I'm inclined to say Jimmy Hart. Man, Jimmy, it's not just being a manager. Jimmy did so many different things. I don't think he gets enough credit for his musical contributions to WWE and WCW. And as a manager, even going back to his days in Memphis and then working for Vince, and then he worked in WCW, represented a lot of different people, used to take bumps, and I'm inclined to put Jimmy there. I know, Paul Bear, Percy Pringle, he's pretty high up on the list. I was never like a big Gary Hart guy. Not that I don't like him or anything. I didn't really get to see a lot of him. It was sort of after the fact. So I know like him with Kabuki and him with like Muda. I didn't see a lot of him like in world class. I'd put Jimmy Hart in that spot. All right, let's break into Be the Booker here because we smashed the goal and we get one round. So we got to try to do this the right way. Hopefully we hit a home run tonight. Let's find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Let's see if we can make the magic happen tonight. We were on a roll last week. We had like a bunch of clean sweeps in a row. Hopefully we can replicate that. So we're going to kick things off here. Tag team Be the Booker. And we're going to start with The Miz and Damien Sandow. Mizdow is kicking us off. Against the team of Rob Van Dam and Hook. RVD and Hook against Mizdow. That's fine. Not a marquee match or anything like that, but two former WWE champions. Hook. And Damien Sandow, when he was doing that gimmick, was fairly entertaining. I'll give it a bell. I'm feeling generous tonight. We have Bird Girl. There she is with her wings. You know, I saw an image of Dragon Lee. He had these big wings made for his entrance at WrestleMania. And they didn't even air his entrance. Too many fucking commercials on the show. They didn't have time for this man's entrance. He probably, God knows what he paid for him because they pay for their own gear. Paid to have these giant wings made, and then the only people that saw them were in the building. Unbelievable. Lyra Valkyria is going to step into the ring with Maurice. Oh, the lovely Maurice. She was a dish. Still is. As former Divas champion, Maurice, by the way. Now our main event. All the marbles on the line here in our closing match. It is Tony Khan's favorite son, the reigning AEW Continental Champion and former AEW World Champion and WWE World Champion, Jon Moxley. Somebody's bleeding in this main event. That's my prediction. Somebody will bleed. Jon Moxley against 1996 Shawn Michaels. Interesting, a little bit of fantasy warfare there, huh? Jon Moxley against Shawn Michaels. You know, Moxley's going to want him to do things in that match that Michaels is going to be like, I'm not fucking doing that. It's going to be like Dean Ambrose and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania all over again. It's going to have all these ideas. We're going to have tacks. We're going to have barbed wire. Sean's like, no, we're not. HBK ain't bleeding in 1996. That ain't happening. But we got the sweep. Back to our winning ways. That's what I like to see. EJ says, I'm judging match quality and company value, not just popularity. All had great matches, were world champions, and defined their decade. Hogan was very important to that first WrestleMania. He was very important to WWE. I don't know, man. Match quality, I give match quality to Flair. And I'm not saying Flair didn't have value and he wasn't important. But I think Hogan defined the 80s. I mean, come on. Devin says, who's doing Brock Lesnar's Hall of Fame speech? His induction speech? Paul Heyman. If Brock is alive, nobody is accepting on his behalf other than Brock himself. Now, Brock may go up there and speak for 2 minutes. Brock will do his own speech. The induction speech will be Paul Heyman. EJ says, All Japan had the 4 Heavenly Kings in the 90s. I came up with the New Japan 4 Guardian Kings: Tanahashi, Okada, Nakamura, and Naito. Do you agree? I think that's fair. You know, if God, who is it that I'm trying to think of? There's one of them that had left for many years and then came back. Shibata. That's who it was. Yeah, Shibata was the one who left. Had Shibata stuck around, that might have been him. He might have been on that list. But I know he went away for a while. Hey, Jason, what's going on? Welcome to the channel. You caught us right at the very end because we're about to get out of here. Tomorrow will be a brand new installment of the Uncrowned Wrestling Show dropping on the Ariel Helwani Show feed and the dedicated feed for the Uncrowned Wrestling Show. Going to be talking about some stuff I did not have the chance to talk about this weekend because there was no sound off. We'll talk WrestleMania. We'll talk the fallout from Raw tonight. WWE Hall of Fame. I've got thoughts on Darby Allin winning the AEW World Championship now that I have just the other day finally finished the entire episode of Dynamite. I wanted to watch the whole thing in context, and my thoughts have changed a little bit from what I initially felt. But we'll talk about that on Uncrowned. That'll be tomorrow. And then, of course, tomorrow night, brand new episode of Tuesday Night Titans. Going to be one of the biggest ones of the year with all the fallout from WrestleMania. And I'm back in the saddle again this week. Dynamite on Wednesday. Should be a big SmackDown on Friday. We'll see what the roster looks like. I'm sure there'll be some new faces popping up there. We had an incredible weekend. Hopefully we can extend this into the week. So come on back. Bring your super chats and all that good shit. I appreciate all the support. Hit that like button on your way out if you have not already done so. Be well. Stay safe. And I will see you tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow. 2 shows coming up tomorrow. Should be a good day. I'll see you then.